Okay, so be quiet. Well, no, John, listen. We had daylight savings time that happened yesterday, and we're gonna go live. We're daylight savings. It kind of messed up my time. I've got the guests coming on shortly, but this woman, she sent me this book. It's like a romance novel. I got into it, and I gotta finish it. Just okay. Look, we're not gonna put the bumper music on. I don't have a hot mic right now, do I? No. Okay, good. I don't want to have a hot mic, so I'm just give me another 30 seconds. I'm really into this book. It's amazing, and and then we'll put on the bumper. Okay, so as soon as I cue you up like this, we'll put on the bumper. All right. So let me just finish reading this book here, and I'm actually reading it out loud because I might want to read a passage on the show. So, all right, non hot mic. Okay. Her legs spasmed. He held her shoulders steady. The orgasm hit her like an earthquake, bucking, thrashing, and shuddering her body. Her vision swam. Endorphins trickled from her brain down to her toes, unwinding every muscle. Yeah, endorphins, John. This thing that creates in your brain, when you have sex. Come on. Marco groaned against the back of her neck and slumped over her. She stilled, sweaty and heaving. He massaged her shoulders, spending the next few minutes washing her. She relaxed into her muscle arms. Nice to be taken care of. The warm liquid rushed down her body. What, John? Are you kidding? You're telling me I have a hot mic? I told you okay. You know what? It's like a box of chocolates, right? You never know what you're going to get. Just bring me a cold towel because I'm getting kind of steamed up here. Okay, let's play the bumper music, all right? Goodness gracious.
Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show. If you caught that first part, I hope. Oops, it's a little steamy in my studio right now. We had a hot mic. Moment that's never happened. I'm excited. We're live streaming today again across LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Now, here's what I'd like you to do is subscribe to the Twitter feed if you're on that. And if you're on any of the other feeds in Twitter, you can chat in the chat box with us in the studio. We're going to be releasing this in the near future as a fully produced international podcast and a video premiere of the same. Now, this guest was sent to me, and I got pretty excited about the fact that they said, hey, this guest has a new book, and they wanted me to read it. And I got to tell you that this book was a different experience. It was my first romance novel, and boy, I tell you, we're in for some cool stuff today. Let me tell you something about Liv Arnold. She's in the green room there. She's worked as a copywriter for several global companies and now runs her own freelance business. She grew up in Melbourne, Australia. I love Australia, where my mom's family's from. She lives with her husband and their spoiled dog, Groot, who only eats freshly cooked meals. When she's not writing, Liv's avoiding the gym. I love it. Devouring a cheese platter, yes. Or marathoning way too much on TV, okay. And, of course, she's a massive book addict and often reads until all hours of the night. Now, as you know, the narrative is the hero's journey, and I asked Liv before she came that big question. What is your... Okay, this is really nice, but what's your gut punches? What are the ups and downs that brought you to this point in your life to do this? We'll bring that up in a bit. So let me bring her on the screen. Hey, Liv Arnold, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, I hope you didn't catch the open mic moment, but did you? If you did, what did it drive you nuts? Or did you say that? What's that guy doing?
I think whenever I hear the sex scenes I write, whenever I hear it back, I'm always like blushing or cringing. I don't know why.
And I mean, come on, a guy's reading it too. It's like everybody. I was saying to Liv before the show, the audiobook has to come out soon with the voices. Maybe you could be the voice of Jenny, that with the accent. That would be kind of
like
hot.
A soothing type.
I think there's something about Australian voices or other voices, right? They kind of do fit certain characters. But as I got to know you before you came on, I was asking you about the book and whatnot. And I think one of the things that blew my mind is that I thought it was going to be a romance novel, which, by the way, I've never read till now. So this is the first. But you said something very interesting about you sort of where you came from in your life and why you decided to write romance novels. Take us back to your early years and sort of that shift that happened.
Yeah, so I've always had anxiety, and I'm donating some of the profits of Stepping Stone to ADAA, Anxiety Depression
Love it.
Association of America. And because I've always had anxiety, and since I was young, I used to get really stressed out and my thoughts would spiral. So one thought will go to the next and it'll start to spiral out of control. And I always thought about the worst case scenario. And this happened even when I was young. And I would really like, even when I was young, I would not sleep that well because I would be awake until all hours of the night, worrying about such small things.
Yeah, I'll take an opportunity now to read that. So everybody, I asked the question, what was sort of the backstory? And this is what Liv wrote. And she says, since I was a child, I worried about small things, and until the sun came up. And my stories have realistic characters with real life issues. And before I go on, Liv, I want to honor you because writing a romance novel with a purpose of bringing social issues, I'd never seen that before. Let me continue. I'm not sure where the anxiety came from. I always worried if I said something wrong or if someone is angry at me. My thoughts can spiral out of control, but maybe mental health challenges run in the family. My mom's a hoarder. I didn't know this was a mental illness when I was younger. I was used to stepping over things. She uses yogurt tubs to plant weeds because she can't bear to throw anything out. I'm sorry. I'm enjoying that because it's so authentic. You also said something about harassment. I think you said it creeped you out, but that you experienced that too, right? Was that school or?
Yeah, well, all women have experienced that. So when I was at school, even in high school, I would I remember this guy, he sent me a random explicit photo and I didn't ask for it. Um, but yeah, so I think like it's early on. I think a lot of women do get that. And
Yeah.
I managed to like, I guess, see the funny side of it and put that into my book because like that was based on what happened. And that's what I actually replied back with, which was what in the book saying like, you should get your testicles checked out because it looks funny. And I showed it to everyone just to double check.
Everybody, thanks for sharing that. By the way, especially since I'm getting tingly. I read this book from cover to cover, as you know, and I have it here, by the way, and we'll get you to hold it up in a minute. And I remember that passage. Everybody, she actually in the book, there's two characters, Jenny and Marco, and then we'll get into that more. But I remember that where she received this picture. I think now they call it sexting of this guy's genitals, and she used that line, and I just like cracked up. I went, that's hilarious. But they say that when people are reading about serious things, this is a lot of brain science behind this. Humor lets us lighten.
Yeah.
We laugh. It lets the brain receive more. When did you first sort of start getting the idea writing about in this way with humor?
I've always been told that I have a very inappropriate sense of humor, and I like bringing that across in books. A lot of the things that has happened in the books, like the little humor stuff, has happened in real life, either to me or someone else. And I think life is sometimes stranger than fiction, and especially if I'm talking about more serious or real life challenges like mental health, I think it's important to break that up a little bit with a bit of humor weaved in between, just so that it gives the reader a breather.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's awesome. I love it. And everybody, just so you know, I mean, I've done some writing, obviously, as an author. It's hard to, even in public speaking, it's hard to infuse humor and do it in the right place. It can actually backfire. I want to ask you this. I'm going to read the front of the book here. It says, dedication to my brother, Bon O, for brainstorming the novel's game of cat and mouse. Is your brother's really name Bon?
It is. So my brothers, James and Bond, they're named after James Bond.
Oh gosh, that's so cool because. Yeah. So I again, let's talk about what you just said about humor, and then I'm going to ask you to read a paragraph. I'm working towards a PhD in brain science because I don't know if you looked at my background yet, but I had a brain injury in 2018. I was doing a ride for cancer. First night, I slipped in a bathtub. I fell backwards, cracked the tub, put a hole in it actually with my head, and I sustained serious injuries. I'm still recovering, and I actually have photophobia. I can't deal with light. I have to wear this all the time. And if I take these off, my eyes they don't converge side to side. They're kind of stuck. And I have to work very hard at vision. And we haven't figured that out yet. But the other day I was on a podcast and somebody said, "You look like Bono." And then I read that in your book and I had this little chuckle.
Yeah.
They just wanted to give this out and then ask you to go to page 7 and read me something, or the audience. Did you know that your brain's a prediction machine, and it actually thinks all the time, and it predicts and tries to tell people what's happening? And when you have what's called a benign failure of prediction, what it really means is the brain predicts something to happen, but it actually, what happens next is wrong. And when that happens, the brain actually laughs. And that's why people laugh. So for example, if you're walking down the street, or if you're watching somebody walking down the street and they're just walking, the brain will say, okay, they're walking there and keep walking. But then they slip on a banana peel and fall down. The brain didn't predict that. So it's a failure, benign failure, and the brain kind of chuckles. So one of the greatest ways comedians they use this style of humor where they'll be saying something and then they say something completely outrageous that people wouldn't predict. And I found that throughout your book. So do us a favor. First of all, hold up the book and then a full screen you. Let's give you hold it up and read the title.
Stepping Stone.
Okay. Is there a subline, or that's just it?
So that's the title, but I was really lucky to get really great blurbs from New York Times best-selling authors, so that the quotes are written in there, and they're authors I've always admired. So I read their books.
Awesome.
And their books are also that they have realistic characters as well. So I was really lucky to get their quotes on there, and that's probably been my highlight of the career.
Fantastic.
My career.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, you're going to get a review revealed from me today, and in your next book, if you write one, you feel free to ask me to review it. Let's I'd like you to. People love it when authors, or at least I do, read their books. So let's get you to page 7 on chapter 1. Everybody, this is going to demonstrate a little bit of the dark humor, and I just thought it was outrageous. Page 7, the last paragraph and the first line of the next page. I got my book here. Go ahead.
He had been with this woman for a month. Maybe he knocked her up. What was the young twit's name again? She had never met the girl before. One of her daughters mentioned he was seeing someone. Her precious child then told Marco's fiancé that Jenna said her name was Airhead and exclaimed it was a funny word. The girl hated Jenna since. Some women were strange like that.
Okay. So, I mean, I'm in my mind, I just can't stop laughing. And I think it's because I have that dark sense of humor. But I got to tell you that I think you and I, before we came out of the green room, what I want to say is when everybody reads your book, what I like is, from you being an author, is people will read it and they'll see something in it that may be their story. And I know a lot of people who went through divorces or changes and they have children, and the children can say some pretty outrageous things.
Yeah.
Now this girl who you were characterizing, she was 9 years old?
Yeah, 9 years old. And it's funny. Some people really love Jenna's sense of humor, but other people, when I do read my reviews, I know I shouldn't read them, but some people are like, her thoughts are a bit mean.
Well, so this is why I love it. And this book, I think everybody should get and read, because what it does is it through humor, it reveals what many people don't want to talk about. So I want to be real with you here, that I went through at an early age 20, or about age 30, actually, a divorce after 7 years, and I remarried again. And I love my wife. We've been married for 26 years, and she had 2 young children. And what parents don't realize, Liv, at least I'd like your opinion on this, is when we say things, we don't realize that children up to age 25 really don't have a rational brain, so they take everything in and it stores in their neurons as thoughts.
Very literal sometimes.
Exactly. So they can come home and say, "Hey, mommy, the airhead." they don't have a clue. They just heard it. So, as an author, when you get reviews that are sort of lower than 5 out of 5, I don't know if anybody's ever told you that, but I'm in the industry too. They say that makes you authentic, because it makes you real, right? Not everybody's going to like everything.
And if you only get all good reviews, like all 4 or 5 stars, I guess your reviews start to look fake.
Exactly. And by the way, have you ever do you ever do book readings?
I have before for podcasts like this,
Yeah,
and I also did other book readings, like for any author talks that I
yeah,
am with, like so sometimes author workshops, and I do some readings then.
cool. And so you'd agree with me. I think that if you do a reading or whatever, not everybody's going to like it. I mean, that's real
Yeah,
life. Same in
that's
school.
true.
Children don't like some children, and children like other children. It's just
Yeah,
reality, right? But for some reason, authors get a little bit out of joint if they get a five, a one. But
I
I got
know.
I got my first one, and my publisher said there's trolls out there actually troll you and just they hit you up, and you
Yeah.
just kind of move on, right? So I thought one of the things we can do today is just creatively educate our audience about writing. So what I learned is you're now a copywriter, but also just take a few minutes to talk about how you learned to write these novels, and I'll throw at you a thought. You can talk around this one. So I for example, wrote down on my paper, Jenna and Marco Kravitz. And so I wrote a note. How do you pick these names? And how does the storyline come? So did you take a course, or did you just start writing and then eventually fine tune it?
So I did short writing courses. I used to work full time in a Big Four bank, and my parents really encouraged me to do a creative short writing course
Yeah.
at a university, and this was outside of work, so after work hours, and it was once a week, and I really enjoyed connecting with like-minded people um, and brainstorming ideas every week, and I found it was the highlight of my week, and then from then I just started thinking of ideas, and as I mentioned before, a lot of the story ideas are based on people I know. So Jenna, she's a friend of mine that's she's a close friend, and I thought I'll just use your name. Like I can't be bothered thinking of another name. Um and with the name Marco, it was funny because I know this person named Marco that often goes to brothels, and I just thought, oh, I'll just use your name too.
All right, we gotta get Marco on the show one day. That's
Yeah.
that's so funny. I want to just say, because I'm riffing with you, because my brain just goes in directions. I think you're very creative. By the way, banking. What bank were you? Would that be in Australia somewhere?
Yeah, in Australia. So it's a Big Four bank called NAB.
What did you do
And
there?
I did various things, like communications type roles, and
Yeah,
also risk and compliance, and
yeah.
also in home loan sales at one stage. So some of it was a bit dry, some of it more creative.
So again, every time we meet somebody, there's threads in our stories. Everybody I've never met, Liv. It's the first time we've seen each other. But you're talking to somebody who had a third of my career in banking, one of our
Yeah.
top 5 charter banks. Yeah, and so right away, there's a connection rapport. So just to the audience, as you're hearing Liv talk and you get her book, and I want you to read it, you're going to have moments like this where you say, "Wait a minute, that story's my story," and you're going to connect. And I think that's one of the neat things about romance or any kind of fiction. Stories take us into people's lives. I want to throw something out just for not controversy, but just to, I think, support what you said about Marco. I was doing a talk the other day. I actually had to do some research about how the brain takes in info. And listen to this, how the mindset influences perception. So our eyes take in information visually. It's one of the visible parts of the brain, and that it takes it in as visual impulses. But so I'm reading your book and I'm taking it, but only 6% of what I actually think and what I'm actually going to have emotions on comes from what I'm actually bringing in. 94% of what we bring in is interpreted in a neural pathway of the brain called the mind's eye. So what you said was brilliant. So, for example, when you said Marco, you told me who you thought of. My brother-in-law's name's Marco. So all of a sudden, my brain is flooding with my Italian
Yeah.
brother-in-law and all these experiences. So somebody else is going to hear Marco, and they're going to be the mind's eye. And listen to this. This is the last thing. 76% of what we see in our mind's eye is inaccurate. And whatever we do, it's either going to end up in positive or negative emotions, positive or negative behavior. So this takes me in, and these are all really good things about the work you're doing. So I want to talk about mental illness for a minute. So I want to honor you for sharing. As people have known me, my narrative, I slipped into depression in 2018 after I fell in the bathtub. My life I almost killed myself. I cracked a hole in the tub, blacked out, and I had suicidal ideation 3 months later. And for a year, I couldn't leave home, and I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety. And so that's anxiety that comes when it's unexpected. So even to do this show, I'm reading a romance novel and I'm going like, holy crap, I'm going to be, what are people going to think of me talking about love in a romance novel? But this is all the stuff that goes on. You work against yourself. Why I'm telling you that is I love your mission. I love how you're not only, this is almost therapeutic for you, but you're helping people. So one of the things that triggered for me is there's a chapter, and I'm going to put it on the screen and ask you to kind of read it out a bit. There's a chapter that characterizes a story that you're telling about Marco, which I thought for the first time when I read that, I thought what an amazing way to write about something that is probably only talked about in the bedroom or maybe not really talked about, that through this book, we can give people an understanding. So would you be okay if I put it on the screen? And
Yes.
so I'm a big fan of Kindle. So let's see if I can do this right.
Me too. I love my Kindle.
Yeah. All right. So I went through your whole book, and by the way, everybody, I'm going to make a shameless plug here. I want you to, we're with Liv Arnold, the author of Rome, of Stepping Stone, and I've got the book here. I want you to go get this book, and authors get known by giving a rating on Amazon.com or Amazon.ca or Goodreads. That's how we want her work to get known. So get the book, read it, and give it a review. So this is this part. Can you just read this out? We'll just enjoy your reading for a bit. Let me just move us off the screen because it's blocking.
Yeah, I
it.
was just thinking that.
Yeah.
It's like
Okay.
our little screens. 20 feet away from Marco, the forklift reversed. A colleague sat in the machine lowering the 10 slabs of concrete and dropped them to the ground. 4 piercing beeps rendered the sight. Marco tilted the opening of the concrete machine upward, stopping the flow pouring into the formwork. A knot worked into his gut. The noise reminded him of the time. Shaking his head, he banished the negative images. Think about another topic. His lips tugged up at having dinner with Jenna and the girls. Happiness floated through his body the first time in ages. His Jenna, the sweet and incredible woman. He missed her like he had a limb amputated. When he blindly followed his friends inside the brothel, the setting appeared to be a bar. Liquor bottles covered the shelf, seating scattered there.
Yeah. Wow. Tell us about, so the audience will get, when they get the book, they'll read the parts before it, but this is a part of this character. Tell us more about, set that up for us.
So he has been to war in Afghanistan and he has PTSD from it. And I did some research from like people that has had PTSD. So one person I know, he actually went to war in Afghanistan, and I asked for his insight on what people might experience once they get back. And he said pretty much everyone that gets back has some form of PTSD. And
Wow.
and he taught me the signs that to look out for, like flashbacks, maybe scared of loud noises, like taking them aback, and things like that. And my writing critique partner, when I was first drafting this book, she has had experience in the military before as well. And she also gave me some insight that there's a lot of resources supporting the families and partners of people that's been to war, but I guess nothing really prepares you for it.
Yeah, totally. And thank you. And everybody, the reason why this caught me off in a good way is I was thinking like, man, not a lot of people, there's a stigma, right? And I get that. People don't talk about the things they experience because they don't feel comfortable. They feel shame, or sometimes they're struggling. They haven't gotten their therapy. And so just tell us a couple things about the relationship with Jenny. What did this do in the story? Because I don't want to be the what do they call when they spoil the plot line, but how did this play out in the relationship? So Jenny's his wife.
Yeah, so they're separated, Jenna and Marco, and I guess she didn't really know, like she wasn't really fully prepared for everything that might come, even though she did get given all these resources. And one of the signs of PTSD is maybe you're not fully present in a room and you might not really realize where you are. And she didn't really comprehend that, and because of him withdrawing and then that one mistake that he did, she didn't really fully understand what that was a part of PTSD, and because of the issues that were building up beforehand as well.
Yeah. Wow. I so again, we're trading stories. I was many years ago. I would bring. I did shared peer groups. So I had C-level executives I'd bring in a room and I'd share it, and we'd bring in a speaker. They'd pay for this, and so we went to a resort, and I had this guy came in, and his name was Mr. Bacon. And his tagline would be "Everybody loves bacon." I'm going like, okay, okay, great, thank you. But he was kind of a short guy, but he was a paratrooper. So one of those guys in the Canadian Special Forces who jumped out of planes, and he also was a sniper. And in his early 20s, he was sent literally to jump into countries, foreign countries. And we have a very strong Special Forces group here in Canada. They're not talked about a lot because we're such a peaceful nation. But they go in, they do a lot of work. And he would go out and he was trained to kill people. So he's standing at the front of the room, Liv, and he's teaching this group of CEOs. And I'm sitting there and he's teaching and he's going like this literally every 30 seconds. And then he stopped the room and he said, I just have to let you guys know that's PTSD. And you can gather what I'm getting at. He explained that he still hears voices. The last thing I want to just say, just for education, that I've learned lately is we have a part of the brain. It's deep inside. It's called the amygdala. And the amygdala is where all the emotions are stored. And the amygdala actually operates without you. So it's, for example, when these soldiers are in, or if a woman's raped, or like me, my dad beat me up and I had violence, our amygdalas store these thoughts and emotions. And so we get triggered. And I used to, when I was a CEO of companies, now I have an education company, I'm more of a teacher. I remember standing in a meeting once, and it was a guy, I was doing a presentation, Liv, and the guy stood up, there was 12 other people, and he just started yelling at me and ripping into me. Like, he was just so mean. And I literally melted into an emotional puddle. And on the outside, you couldn't tell, but I was in so much pain. After the board meeting, my CEO came to me because he was with me, and he said, "Are you okay?" And then the chair of the board came. He said, "Hey, are you okay?" He said, "He's ripped the strip off of every one of us." But the thing is that from that moment on, I couldn't stay working there. I was running away from it. Yet everybody else there seemed to be able to handle it. And so what I learned through my own self-recovery, and why I love your book with the message, is I learned about my amygdala and how it's not damaged, but it was given this situation that I have to fight every day. When I hear somebody raise their voice or start yelling, my brain says, "There's daddy." And then I have to literally do some things to work it. So thank you for sharing that part. Anything else you want to say about just the whole thing about PTSD? And I think there's a magic moment where it did something, breaking these two apart, but then something happened was they were broken up. They went on this individual journeys. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, it was interesting what you said about the person, constantly looking away, and him being so self-aware of what he was doing, because not everyone has that self-awareness.
Exactly.
And I think especially for men, that they're not as used to talking about any emotions or anything that they might be feeling, and they're less likely to get support for any challenges that they might have. So he sounds pretty self-aware of where he's at with everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, with my book, so Jenna and Marco, they go on a journey and separately, and they sort of make their way back together, because this is a second chance romance, and they go,
and all the little steamy interludes we came across throughout that journey, which are just awesome, by the way.
And so they realize, so they grow as individual people separately, and Marco sort of addresses what he went through separately, while Jenna goes through this sort of sexual awakening. And that's another thing that I like to touch upon, because a lot of women don't feel comfortable in expressing what they want and their desires, and it's important to have that healthy space where people might be comfortable to talk about it, especially if it's someone that you trust and you're comfortable with. So they go on their separate journeys, but it sort of like helps them bring them together.
Yeah. I won't be a spoiler. By the way, hold up the book there. We're going to full screen you. Hold it up and read us the title again.
Stepping Stone.
All right, everybody. With Liv Arnold, the romance writer who's writing with a purpose, bringing out social issues, donating proceeds from her books to mental illness, which I think is fabulous. I'm smiling when you're telling me about that piece there, because what I remember is they separated, and then for some reason she misinterpreted something and thought he was getting married again or something like that. Mm. And she had this kind of feeling in her heart, which meant she still obviously cared. And you said that they had the part we didn't talk about was the Catholic family. Tell me about that, because I thought that was so funny. There's some things in there that people of religion are just going to laugh at, because she couldn't talk. There were some barriers because her parents were Catholic. There's a couple of fun moments there.
Yeah, so they have they like being interfering and being like really involved in everything. And when I was doing the character profiling of Jenna and how she might be a bit awkward to express her sexual desires, I was writing a bit of her background info, which I wasn't originally intending to put in the book, but I thought maybe there's something blocking her from doing that, and one of it could be a strict religious household, and that is something that could I guess could mold people when they get older and be uncomfortable to express certain things that they might really want. And especially if you're going through a separation, there's already taboo around that in society. But if you come from a religious and also a close-knit family, there's probably more judgment there as well.
Absolutely. And again, I know that and I'm so proud of you in your book. Every time you tell a little part of that story, I can tell you there's thousands of people around the world who will read it, will say that it'll trigger something. So as an example here, you've never met me, and I said I was married twice, but Anna was married for 20 years before she met me. She's 10 years elder, and she's Italian, and I'm from Fiji. Or actually, I was born in England. My parents from Fiji and my grandparents India. So it's like we have a beautiful daughter who's sort of all olive-colored skin and all, but it was a struggle to kind of let the parents know about the change in her marriage. She was telling me that because it's a traditional culture and Catholicism. So I just thought it was fun. Part of me got that dark sense of humor where she couldn't tell him, but there was that other moment at the end. So again, you said that I think the part too I loved about this book was, tell me if I say it wrong, but sometimes people break up for a reason. I think sometimes God puts us on a journey to learn something. And then through that journey, they discover something about themselves that frees themselves, and then they come back together. It's kind of like typical hero's journey. Yeah. So she discovered something about herself, about liking other women.
Yeah.
I think it was her girlfriend started with a C there. Tell us a bit about that, and then that last end where she told the parents, or how that was.
Yeah. So I think with people in general, if they have, I did a lot of research on being attracted to the same sex, and it could be in different ways. So it could be you're interested in them either romantically or sexually, but it's still like a form of bisexuality. And coming from a strict family where the only goal is to climb the corporate ladder and also to have kids as well, that's something that's outside of the box that people might be uncomfortable with addressing, and it wouldn't even occur to them to voice this out loud. And at the end, when she does finally come clean, like she thought like this is part of my identity, and she went through this journey to come to where she is and to be comfortable in her own skin and be confident. I thought, like, what would be a parent's reaction to something like that, especially if they're from a strict religious family. And I think some families might just prefer not to acknowledge it, or just pretend they never said anything.
It's just that magic moment in the book where I think she said it, and the father said something like, oh lordy, lordy, right? And the brother stood up for her and said, "Good for you" or something. And I just thought,
Yeah,
this is a real moment that happens in many households. We just will never see it, where somebody's
yeah,
come out of the closet or said something that others find uncomfortable. But
yeah,
this book gives us courage. What I like about it is you taught us that we can be courageous and face our demons and face those inner things.
mm,
And then once we free ourselves, right, find the truth. I just loved it. There was a mention of Tourette's in there too. There was a
yeah.
Tell me about that, and where did that thought process come from?
Um, it was funny because I guess people get inspiration from different things. And I remember when I was a teenager, I used to watch some episodes every now and then of Big Brother, and there was a guy with Tourette syndrome on the show, the a contestant, and I've never actually seen someone with Tourette's before because I think sometimes in movies it's a little bit exaggerated or
Hmm.
not quite realistic. And the guy in the show, he did like the whole twitching type thing. And yeah, and I thought like usually in movies they do exaggerate it, but then there's ways that you can bring out that funny side in it to like get into like different situations or scenarios that might get you into trouble or
Yeah.
something like that. And so I just thought it would be like a cool just one paragraph to like just include in the book.
Yeah, I thought it was really well done. And again, like I said, we all connect by stories. I mean, I can't
Yeah,
believe this one book has so many threads connected to something I saw. My younger brother has Tourette's,
yeah,
and actually, my younger brother, he's about 8 years younger. Again, my dad left home when we were 12, but he was quite a violent dude when he was drinking, and I think something triggered my brother to have Tourette's at a young age, but they didn't diagnose it, and so he got into drinking and we would see, his life living with it. And when you know somebody lives with it and the impact is just so, for some people, very uncomfortable. And what the book did when I read it is it just really made me understand more about, how that can actually be written in a story like this, but be reflective
yeah.
on tolerance. I just so honor you for doing that. I just have a couple more things here, and then we'll have a little bit of fun. Got something to share with you.
Okay, sounds good.
I wrote down here page 77. Just go to there. This will be the last piece we're going to reflect on in the book. Everybody, I'm with the author Liv Arnold, a romance author. She's a copywriter, and she's written this book, which is a romance novel with real life situations of social issues like mental illness. Are you there?
Yes.
It was 77, right?
Mm.
Just turning to mine. I have a book here too. I'm bragging. She even signed it. You can see all my sticky notes. Yeah, there was, I think this was, sorry, maybe it was, I put down here 4 rules. And for me, this was an unexpected. So I think when they separated these
Yeah,
two characters, this touched on another thing where I went, wow, so many people, I've heard a lot of people talking about this, about open marriages, but so many people go through this thing like, okay, we're separated, but maybe we can date. I
yeah.
think so there were 4 rules here that they both tried to agree on. Just talk for a moment about that, because I think it was uncomfortable for Marco.
Yeah, so she wasn't really ready to get back together and like to make things like how it used to be. And because she was thinking about other sexual things that she might want to explore and dating,
Yep.
but like there's still that great chemistry between her and her estranged husband Marco.
Yeah.
And they so when they had that one night together, she decides that maybe there's no harm in making this a regular thing because they do have that great chemistry together. And but then to set some ground rules just so that no one gets hurt, and so that they're free to be with other people and explore things. And Marco's not that happy with that because his goal was to always get the family back together and reunite with her. But then he thinks maybe this is one step closer to meeting that goal
Yeah.
for him.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. And so even just reading that and
Yeah.
really being in that moment and just going like, geez, I started feeling what it might be like if that happened between my wife and I. You kind
Yeah.
of go through that going like, wow, I don't know what I would say.
Yeah.
And it was courageous of her to actually say that she wanted that. I have a little picture here I want to put on the screen. Tell us who this is.
Oh, that's He's my dog Groot.
Oh yeah.
Oh, wait.
What's the deal with the name Groot? And who is
so
he? Who is he in your life?
So he's my dog. He's a Maltese Shih Tzu. I named him after the character from the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
He's 5 years old now. Back then, he was about, I think, 2 months in that photo, and he's quite spoilt. So he sleeps on the bed.
Oh,
He likes his steaks medium rare, or else he doesn't eat it. So he actually turns his nose up or runs away if he doesn't like the food I've made him.
oh my goodness. Well, everybody on the stock ticker, you'll see livearnold.com, the website. Groot's on the website. And another connection, this is just uncanny, but I had a miniature Shih Tzu for 16 years.
Yeah.
Shadow, she passed, but, again, so many cool things. Let me just look at my notes here. I think I've covered the things I want to talk to you about. So I want to celebrate something. So as I said, I've read your book from cover to cover. I've enjoyed it thoroughly. I'm going to pass it on to somebody else. Everybody, I highly recommend you get this. If you want to read a romance novel that's not a typical romance novel, it's a steamy novel. It had me wanting to read further. There's things I loved and had never experienced, but Liv's weaved in there social issues such as showing what somebody with mental illness, PTSD in a relationship might be perceived as, and other things. So you got to get it. So I'm going to reveal for the first time a international review that I've written for your book. We're going to cover us up for it, but if you don't mind, I want to put it up on the screen.
Okay.
So I'm just going to go to.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of real life issues addressed in the book, but there's still a lot of fun and like humor and larger than life scenarios that can happen in real life, and there's still a lot of smut in there as well.
Yeah,
like people that like sex scenes.
Yeah, we need to explicitize that, and I was kind of downplaying it. My eyes went, whoa. And for guys, I mean, we talk about brain science a lot today, but one of the ways to get mentally healthier is I read that the ratio of release of dopamine is 1,000 times when you have sexual intercourse. And so intimacy is important in any relationship. We know this. Sexual relationships, people don't always like to talk about it, but it's a great way to keep happy. I mean, it's a natural thing. So I'm going to put this up on the screen. I'm just going to read it quickly. Here we go. All right. You like the picture?
Yes, I do.
All right, everybody. I'm revealing a 5-star international review. This is Canada, Australia. I title the review, I never read a romance novel like this one. And just going to go to, here's for a second to try to, whoops. Sorry, I think I lost something here. Pardon me for a minute. Okay. Anyway, romance roller coaster. Author Liv Arnold created an unexpected sharing a story of Marco and Jenny, married lovers who navigated the horrors of PTSD in and outside of the bedroom. A story of tolerance, anger, discovery, forgiveness, and betrayal, and freedom. Both characters face their inner demons through a marriage breakdown, seeking the truth. Each chapter reveals a twist in the plot and comes full circle to a defining moment. When I thought it was safe to breathe again, I took another gasp as the plot thickened and ended up leaving me caught off guard. I lived vicariously through this book in my own imagination. Or was it real? I mean, I'm a guy. This was about real life and the things we only talk about in the bedroom, yet we need to talk about in the open. So that was posted today, and congratulations to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for reviewing.
Yeah, I'm just going to give us a little bit of fireworks there. There you go. We're celebrating. And so as we produce this, that'll be in the production, and you'll have that up front so
great.
when people will see this, I hope it helps you get your book and story out there. Last thing I want to do is recognize you with an award. I don't know if you know you're getting one.
Okay. I didn't. Thank you.
Okay, so let me just.
I usually don't get anything. So.
Aha. Well, you know what? You're an author, and the word author as a word is from the authority. When you're an author, you're an authority on something. So,
yeah.
But let me just full screen me for a minute. So you see that TV screen there? There's an image on it. Do you see that? Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so that's the front of what's called the challenge coin. And so when challenge coins were created in World War II, the idea came up where soldiers would carry them in their pockets. If you were in a unit together, if you didn't have yours, you might buy drinks or they'd have fun, you buy dinner. But they started creating community. And today, first responders, Alcoholics Anonymous, teachers, groups all over the world have their own challenge coins. Some people even collect them. So I wanted to, when I launched the show, I didn't know where it was going to go. I just wanted people to come on, like you, who are heroic, who told their backstories and how they turned that to helping the world. And so you're being inducted into the Quiet Warrior Tribe today. The back of the coin, you're welcome. The coin's two-sided. It's hand-painted and crafted and minted in the U.S., though. The front of it is the show emblem. The back of it is the hero's journey narrative. It's beautifully illustrated. It's actually raised letters and all. So I'll be sending that out to you.
Thank you. That's an honor. Thank you.
My honor, too. And I think we're in 17 countries now. And so just know these are hard to get. And there's people like you, amazing people all around the world who are now connected by the threads. And if you go to my podcast channel, you'll see all of the Quiet Warriors. So congratulations.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you. I love that.
And then finally, 4 words. I write these. I don't script them. I write them as you're talking. One is these are leadership words that come to mind about you. Heroine. Absolutely, because you took a heroic step by doing this. And number 2 is love. It comes out of you and in your readings. There's a passion that caring about people. And number 3 is courageous. I think when people read your book, they're going to know why. Because writing a novel that is not just steamy, but maybe takes a risk and puts it out there to create controversy or people to think, the world needs more of that. And the last one I would say is best-selling. Your ideas are best-selling because I think it's very unique what you're doing. Each time somebody reads your book, and even one person has a thought that maybe creates courage to break through, you're awesome. So on that note, we'll give it back to you to tell people anything about where they can get a hold of you and your books. Any last words from you?
Well, as I did mention before, I do read all my reviews, even though I know I shouldn't. But the ones that really touch me the most is that says that the book has pulled on their heartstrings, but it also gave them lighthearted moments where they were in stitches of laughter, and it took their minds off their everyday troubles reading this book. But it also shows that that they're not so different from everyone else. So if they are struggling with something with mental health, and they said that they really appreciated how this book addresses that. And so you can find me on my website, livarnold.com, or I'm on Instagram and Twitter, liv_au, and Facebook, Liv Arnold Author. Plus I'm also on like Goodreads and BookBub as well. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, it's amazing. And Instagram, I'll find you on there. I'll put this in the show notes. So everybody find this book. And speaking of humor, there's lots of humor through this book. Trust me, humor and really good emotional experiences through some of these visuals of people having relationships in the bedroom. You got me excited again, so I'll just read this. Good news filled the letter. So this is the letter that somebody wrote for Jenna Kravitz, the ex who they were separated. He was getting married and requested custody of their dog. The word engagement dropped inside her stomach like a ton of bricks. Sinking back onto her living room couch, she gritted her teeth. He can have the bitch. His new fiance, not the dog. And I just, again, all these little humorous points make this book just a treasure. So
thank you.
So thank you for being here, Liv. And on that note, you're welcome. We'll have you back again for your next book. And everybody, find that true passion like you see Liv here. Find that purpose and live the life that you deserve and desire. And thanks for being on the show. Thanks, Liv.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca.
I'm just ending the broadcast.